Okay, so we're going to look at two basic techniques for solving equations on the IB AISL course. So we're given an equation here, sine x equals cos x. What we've seen so far is our strategy for solving an equation like this one would be to use n-solve. It can lead to some difficulties, so let's have a look at using n-solve to solve this one. We're going to start off with sine x is equal to cosine x. That's the equation. We're going to solve it with respect to the variable x. So we pass two parameters to n-solve, the equation, followed by the variable that we're solving with respect to. And this gives us one solution. It tells us that x is equal to 45 degrees. Now that's not always the case. We have to extend our understanding of our two techniques for solving equations at this point. So what I'm going to suggest we start with is graphing the function. Now the second technique, other than n-solve, for solving any equation, is to graph the left-hand side. We make y1 equal to the left-hand side, which is sine x. We make y2 equal to the right-hand side, which in this equation is cos x. So whatever is on the left-hand side, whatever is on the right-hand side, we graph them. And then once we draw the graph, we can find the solutions. So our graph is going to look like this. So for our graph, we're going to draw each one. We're going to have to think about the window settings. So our window settings, we can see them here. If we look in the question, we're told that the domain is 0 to 360. We can also see the amplitude of these two functions. The amplitude of these two functions is 1. So it's going to go up to 1 at this point. It's going to go to minus 1 at this point. It's going to go from 0 to 360 degrees. And this is the window settings we need to use. So let's go into the menu. Escape. Control, add a page, add a graphing page. Our first function is going to be sine of x. Our second function, press tab again, is going to be cosine of x. And we don't see very much, but we need to fix our window settings. So we go menu, window settings. We need to go from 0 to 360 degrees. We need to go from minus 1 to 1. We can see this in the amplitude of the function. Our graphs look like this. So to solve an equation using this strategy, you need to find all of the points where the two curves intersect. So we're going to use menu, analyze graph, intersection. And we can stroke on the pad here to the left-hand side of the first intersection, then to the right-hand side, and we get our solution. So our first solution on this particular case, we have two graphs. We have the sine curve looking like this. We have the cosine curve looking like this. Our first solution here is that x equals 45. Now, in this equation here, we don't have any mention of y values. It's an equation that we're solving. It's not a function problem that we're solving. We're using the functions to find our solutions. So we've got our first solution, but with this graphical approach, you can see that you've missed a second solution. So we need to do analyze graph, find the intersection, click either side, and we get our second solution. In the graph, we've got the domain correct, so we can see that there are only two solutions. And this is all of the solutions. We can get this information from n-solve. So if you're just working on the n-solve page, our first strategy is to use n-solve. Our second strategy is to graph it and find the intersections. So in n-solve, how do we get these solutions? Well, n-solve actually has 4 parameters you can pass it. The first parameter is what equation do you wish to solve? The second parameter is what variable do you wish to solve with respect to? You have 2 more parameters that are optional that we haven't used yet so far on the course, but here at this point we can add them. We know that the first solution is at 45 degrees. N-solve will always give you the solution that is closest to the origin. It can even be at a negative value if there was a solution on the other side of the on the other side of the origin that was actually closer than 45 degrees. It will give you the first solution it finds either side of the origin. You then got to find your other solutions. Our solutions are going to be in the period from 0 to 360. So 45 has to be the first solution in the period from 0 to 45. Otherwise, it would have given you the one that was closer. So we can assume at this point that there are no more solutions in the period to 0 to 45, but there could be from 45 to 360. So let's put in 45.1 as our next parameter, and then tell it to go as far as 360 and then stop. So the next two parameter is telling us in what interval of x are we looking for a solution. And we're saying, look in this interval. Tell me if there's another solution. And here we get our second solution. How do we know that there's not a third solution? Well, with the MSolve strategy, go up and repeat the process each time you find a solution and just move it along a little bit further. Here in this case, 225.1. And then it will say no solutions found. At this point, we know we found all of the solutions to the equation from 0 to 360 degrees. And that's our answers.